When we exercise, we change our mitochondria to produce more energy. Now, the way that we change our mitochondria to produce more energy is we can actually double the volume of these mitochondria. Now, these mitochondria, again, they're in cells and they're compartments inside of cells. So when we exercise, we can actually double the volume of our mitochondria. So this would be someone who's relatively sedentary. Their mitochondria is half the size, can be up to half the size of someone who goes to the gym regularly. So these mitochondria, again, can double in volume. Not only that, the mitochondria have two membranes. It has an outer membrane and it has an inner membrane. So the inner membrane also has a dramatic potential for development. So the inner membrane of someone who's relatively sedentary is relatively, undeveloped. We'll put it that way. But versus someone who exercises regularly, this mitochondria inner membrane in red is going to have a lot more of these invaginations. That's what they're called. They're called invaginations, these wrinkles. So that's the sign of a more developed inner mitochondrial membrane. And what happens when we have more of these invaginations in this inner membrane? It increases the surface area of this membrane. And now, why do we want to increase the surface area of this membrane? So we can have more of these electron transport chain units along this inner membrane. And it's these electron transport chain units that produce most of our energy for us. So we take one molecule of glucose, and when we convert it into energy, these electron transport chain units can generate 34 units of energy from one molecule of glucose. So when we exercise and we expand the volume of this mitochondria and develop this inner membrane to generate a larger surface area for more of these electron transport chain units to be created along this inner membrane, we are increasing our capacity to turn glucose into ATP. So these electron transport chain units require a lot of iron. There are 27 atoms of iron at least for every one of these electron transport chain units. So when we exercise and we develop our mitochondria and we also develop our inner mitochondrial membrane to make more of these electron transport chain units so we can turn more food into energy, so we can get to the finish line of these races that we run, we require more iron to do that. Not only that, is that this whole process generates carbon dioxide. So cellular respiration generates ATP, carbon dioxide, and water. Now it's this carbon dioxide that's got to be cleared out of the cells, and the way it does that is through our red blood cells. Moreover, these mitochondria are in an aerobic environment. They are in an aerobic environment. That means that they require oxygen, again, which is another function of red blood cells. So when we train, our demand for healthy red blood cells definitely goes up because we are creating a higher oxygen carbon dioxide exchange. But not only that, it's the red blood cells that require a massive amount of iron also. So again, on the left side of the board, there are 25 trillion red blood cells in our body. In a healthy body, there are 25 trillion red blood cells. In each red blood cell, there are 250 million hemoglobin proteins. And each hemoglobin protein requires 4 atoms of iron to function correctly. So that would mean that there are roughly 1 trillion atoms of iron for every red blood cell. So these red blood cells require iron to function correctly. So this is one of the reasons that roughly 80% of the people who exercise are anemic, is because not only are we putting a higher demand for our red blood cells by creating more carbon dioxide, as well as increasing the oxygen demand by doubling the mitochondria, we are also increasing the number of these electron transport chains along this now developed mitochondrial membrane that require iron. So it's important, if you are training in the gym, to make sure you're getting enough iron and you might actually require a little bit more than someone who's sedentary for this very reason.